Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. You're looking absolutely fantastic today on this lovely midweek hump. Midweek hump, we all love a midweek hump. Anyway, I'm getting straight into the meat and potatoes as I'm talking about Idaho because there's been some new docs and motions in limine. What is a motion in limine in layman's terms? It is when people get together and they turn around and say, we don't want that spoke about in court because that could be prejudicial either way. So they want it removed. So you can't talk about it. So let's talk about this, because this goes into the series that I'm currently doing, Hiding 3 Killers. Because if you ever needed proof that that is indeed what's going on here, then just look no further than these latest docs. But let's just look at what docs. I'm not going to go into these docs. Not all of them. There's just 2 that we want to look at, that we want to pay attention to. But we'll just do... What a shit show. I can't get over it, I'll tell you. This is becoming farcical. Well, it became farcical months ago. So the 2 that we're going to look at in a second are the alibi ones and the alternative perpetrator evidence, which has been filed by the prosecution to strike the alibi, strike alternative perpetrator evidence. But there's some other stuff in here as well. When you look at some of these other docs, like the neuropsychology thing, I think is quite interesting. It's almost like there isn't nothing to see here. So it's almost like if we do just click on it, because it's, to me, because this is the state of Idaho, it's almost like I don't really get it. I don't think there's anything to see. It's almost like saying, well, he's straight as a fucking arrow. Mental conditions shall not be a defence to any charge of criminal conduct except expert evidence. There isn't a lot in it. I don't think there's anything kind of wrong with him, unless they're trying to say that, unless there's things like being a germaphobe and things like that could potentially raise doubt. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense to me there. Is there anything around Bryan Kohberger? Because we have questioned whether there are any neurodiversities in there that would actually make you think, well, he's not going to get involved in this. So there's, we could read into that anyway, but for now, I'm not talking about it. They also want to, what I don't understand, they went on about this they've made a doll's house, a Barbie house, rather than show people the house, which they knocked down and buried. They've made a doll's house. They've made this fucking thing to look at to better help the jury understand exactly what happened under the full control of the prosecution, because the house no longer exists because they fucking flattened and buried it. But what I don't get with that is this is a motion in limine, which is to say we don't want this brought up, but yet they've filed that in amongst it. So I don't really get that. It seems a bit out of place. And Ann Taylor has also filed something that seems to want to suggest that she wants it removed about the bushy eyebrow situation, which I can't work out why she'd want that removed, because that's literally saying, well, Dylan Mortensen didn't recognise Bryan Kohberger. So when she has shown Bryan Kohberger's eyes, are they the eyes you saw? So like, don't know. And she wants that struck, so I don't get it, because that's surely helpful to them. So there is some weird shit, but I am side-eyeing Ann Taylor. In some things she's been great, I get it, and some people are support. But something like that, I can't get my head around it. But I'm not a legal person, so maybe there's something that I've missed. Maybe someone in comments will let me know why she could quite possibly want the fact that Dylan Mortensen couldn't recognise Bryan Kohberger struck from the fucking record. Make that make sense. So this one here, motion in limine, RE alibi, right? So comes now, State of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecutor and attorney, and respectfully moves the court in limine for an order prohibiting the defendant from presenting any evidence, whether by direct or cross-examination, in support of any claimed alibi. Why are they so scared of a potential alibi? What is so... This is scary to them. There's something... This has always been something that's sat in the back of their minds that is problematic. And the amount of effort they've gone to say, nah, you can't have it, you can't discuss. You know what I mean? Request for discovery, disclosure, alibi demand. That makes you fucking laugh as well. Do you know what I mean? Like they're saying... By way of background, the state refers to the following: request for alibi, discovery, disclosure, alibi demand, motion to compel, notice of defence of alibi. What they basically complain about in this, right, is that you've been asked for it and it took you fucking ages to get hold of it. They didn't go into the fact that a lot of the reason why they were delayed on the alibi is because they were fucking waiting for information from the prosecution in order to compile the alibi. But instead, they make a whingy point saying, "Oh, you've took too long. You've took too long." Look, attached partial transcript, court hearing to alibi, where and then presiding judge John C. Judge observed that the defendant's proffered so-called alibi, not really an alibi, and that he will address the issue of alibi disclosure in a subsequent scheduling order beginning at line 8. The August 20 blah 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 scheduling order, which in paragraph 7 addresses the deadline for the defence to comply with its statutory obligations for alibi disclosure. But again, they keep whinging that they've asked for stuff and it's kind of it's ran on. But they failed to address the fact that it ran on because they were fucking dragging their heels. And they have dragged their heels throughout the entire process. But yet the guilters will have you believe that all of the delays have been caused by Ann Taylor. It takes a piss, mate. It has now been approximately 20 months since the state first made its request for discovery disclosure. So again, whinging about the time. As the court file reflects, the defendant has failed to comply with the requirements of Idaho Code. And this is the point here, and this is what I always said to you. That was the issue. When people say, why Bryan Kohberger? Why Bryan Kohberger? This is fucking why Bryan Kohberger. Because they knew that Bryan Kohberger's alibi would not fit their code, what classes as an alibi. To just say that you're driving about that can't be used as an alibi unless you can back it up. Even though we've had Cy Ray come forward and say that he can corroborate this, which they do go on to mention, but they don't want it spoken about. They're basically saying anything to do with the alibi need to be struck. You've had enough. If you had a fucking alibi, you'd have come to us already. But it ain't as simple as that. It ain't as simple as that. And the fact that they are so hell-bent on removing any form of... To me, this is directed at Cy Ray. Cy Ray's testimony. I think they are trying to block Cy Ray from coming in and potentially discussing the data on the phone. They know the PCA is out there. They know everyone's seen it. They can turn around and say car there, this journey, that journey. But he is not going to be able to dispute it. As part of his alibi is going to be around the phone data that they have suggested would suggest that he was driving this route. It doesn't do that. Fucking snidey. Absolutely snidey. But there we go. The adversary system of trial is hardly an end in itself. It is not yet a poker game in which players enjoy an absolute right always to conceal their cards until played. Trial by ambush, which we've always fought. And this here, right, this statement, you fuckers who believe that Bryan Kohberger is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, that's what you need to pay attention to, because this is the prosecution, and this is about trial by ambush. Everything should come out on the table. Everything that you have should come out on the table. So please tell me why we've got mid-20 requests for discovery from the defence to the prosecution, and there is still stuff that ain't been handed over to this date. Takes a piss, mate. But anyway, this one here, right? This is the one that should raise your eyebrows. The bushy ones. State's motion in limine, RE, alternative perpetrator evidence. How fucking blatant can you get? Why would that be a thing? I'll tell you why it's a thing. Because there is evidence at the crime scene that would support a theory that Bryan Kohberger was one of two things, and that is not the only one involved, was part of other people who was around here, or he fucking simply weren't there at all. He was nothing to do with it, and there was other people there. That's what this is about. So comes now the state of Idaho, by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, respectfully moves the court in limine for an order prohibiting the defendant from offering alternative perpetrator evidence or argument without first satisfying the court that any such evidence is relevant and admissible pursuant to these rules. So basically, if Hitler, this is now about a fair trial, isn't it? Because if Hitler is biased, he could turn around, like we saw Judge Gull over in the Delphi situation. Now, irrelevant of whether you think Richard Allen is guilty or innocent, that's fucking irrelevant. It's whether you think the process was done right, it was done proper, everything was brought forward that needed to be brought forward, and due to that process being right and being proper, did it conclude right? And I don't think anybody, if you're being honest with yourself, can say that the trial... Now, I get it, that some of you are going to think the outcome was right, and this is just a case of does the ways justify the means, or means justify the end? Does the ends justify the means? You know what I mean? Don't matter how you get to a conclusion, it's just getting to the conclusion that we want. We're happy with it. Fuck, I don't care how you got there. But we can't live in that world. That is a bad floodgate to open, and you need to understand that ain't a world you want to live in. The system has to work right. It has to work proper. It has to function in a way that you can step back. Everyone can step back. Everyone, even the people who don't get the outcome that they want, because they've seen the process and they understand that it was done right and everything was looked at. You're confident in the result because the system. Do you know what I mean? That's just as simple as that. But is that what's happening? Is that what we're seeing here? And it doesn't seem to be the case. Doesn't seem to be the case. And that wasn't the case in Richard Allen. It wasn't. Yes, it might. That outcome may have appeased a lot of people, but the process was busted. And that's what's potentially happening here. There is evidence at that crime scene, blood evidence at that crime scene, that would seemingly suggest that there is a potential for other people to at least be involved. At least be involved. We have a very, very rapid crime with real skill involved in it. Speed, skill, in, out, seemingly suggesting just a fatal error that got the perpetrator caught. The perpetrator. I'm not buying it. But this again it's in my opinion, this is their attempt to hide stuff, to hide 3 killers. In support of this motion, the state refers to Court and Counsel to State versus Meister, where the Idaho Supreme Court addressed the standard for accessing the admissibility of alternative perpetrator evidence. In Meister, the Idaho Supreme Court held the Idaho rules of evidence implicitly overrule State versus Last. This goes through some court. So where we fuck somebody else over, this is what makes me laugh, because what they'll do is we're asking for you to fuck this guy over, and we want you to fuck this guy over, and our support that should mean that you agree is because we've also fucked him over there. So because this, do you know what I mean? But there you go. It's that in itself, in my opinion. Bring my beautiful face back. I don't need to read any more of that. It is what it is. That's as simple as that. I don't need to read the whole doc. I just want him to not be able to raise anything at all about the potential that there are other suspects in that house. So don't mention that there's any blood in there. No. You can't mention it. Why can't you mention it? Why? If you've got all of the evidence that proves this person did it beyond a reasonable doubt, you should not be fucking scared by anything else. Don't matter what he says he was doing. Don't matter. This don't matter. Nothing matters because we've got the evidence to prove he did it. And I'll tell you why all of this does matter to them, because they don't have proof that he did it. They don't have evidence. All you people who are sitting there, you wait till it goes to trial, Ash. They're going to bring out the big guns, mate. They got loads of stuff. He's nailed. No, he fucking ain't. Because if he was, this wouldn't matter. You heard it here first. Let me know down below what you think, and I will catch you all either later or tomorrow. Who knows? I might go live later. Might do. Midweek hump together. Love you all. Mwah.